What is going on, everyone? I hope you are all doing well today. So sorry for the wait in between videos. Two reasons for that. One, school has started back. I'm getting in the groove of that again. But two, today's video is super special. I'm super excited for today's video. This is the biggest collab I've ever done on my channel yet, and I'm super honored to be featuring some amazing guests today. If you're wondering what today's video is, you saw the thumbnail. The best, the worst, the underrated of the Zelda series. Yes, this series has been going for almost 40 years, and there have been some highs, there have been some lows, and we all have different opinions as to what that may be. It is my great honor today to announce that I am featuring Josie, the Geek Apprentice, Capt Burgerson, as well as Dman Gaming. And today we are going to be talking about the best and the worst, as well as the underrated of this series, and giving our thoughts on that. And as we comment what our picks are, I encourage you all as well to go into the comments and comment what your favorite Zelda game is, what your least favorite Zelda game is, as well as the one that you feel is the most underrated. But before I start rambling on about what my favorite Zelda game is, I can't think of a better person to start this video off than the man who breaks down the design of every Zelda dungeon imaginable, Capt Burgerson. Cap, take it away.
People often ask me what my favorite Zelda game is, and honestly, that is a difficult question for me to answer. Different Zelda games do different things well from each other, and that's part of what makes the series so endearing. I'm tentatively choosing Link's Awakening, simply because I've been playing it a lot recently, and it has been fresh in my mind. I love this game. It has tightly designed dungeons that make creative and consistent use of Link's arsenal, fun puzzles, an overworld that slowly unravels and actually becomes more and more fun to explore as you make progress, and has a banging soundtrack start to finish. And most importantly, the game has a lot of heart. The weak spot of Link's Awakening overall is that the boss fights tend to feel pretty underwhelming, but I think the greatest strength of Link's Awakening comes from the morality of the situation. I know this is a 30-year-old game, but I'll still avoid spoiling too much here. But my spoiler-free summary would be that just past the halfway point of the game, you learn a terrible truth. That truth completely recontextualizes how you will view everything and everyone on the island, and will even make you wonder if what you're doing, what your main quest and goals are, is the right thing to do. This game is a masterpiece, and I cannot recommend it enough.
I'm really glad they decided to keep that same art style for Echoes of Wisdom, because I think it works really well. And maybe now they'll do the Oracle games. Please, Nintendo? Definitely a great pick, but now it gives me the great pleasure and great honor to welcome Spawncast member Josie. Josie, take it away. Your favorite Zelda game. Let's hear it.
My favorite Zelda game is one that I don't know if a lot of people really love, and it's a huge commercial success, and you know, some of you probably love Breath of the Wild, but I feel like it's a bit of a divisive game, and every time I talk about it, there's people on both sides, people who love the new open world format and people who hate it. But for me, it was one of the best things that the Zelda franchise has ever done. I wasn't really a huge Zelda fan before I played Breath of the Wild. I had played Wind Waker and a little bit of Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword, but I never really even finished those games, and something about them just didn't really grab me. I think they're great games and whatever, but they just weren't for me. But when I picked up Breath of the Wild, when I sat down and I played through Breath of the Wild, it was one of the best experiences gaming I had ever had. And now looking back, it could be part of nostalgia, but at the time, it was this huge, expansive, open world that I just wanted to get lost in and explore. And for me, that's huge. I don't really like getting lost in most games, and so through this game, through Breath of the Wild, and realizing that this was this really cool, open world with so much to do, it was super exciting. I think it stayed one of my favorite games just because, I mean, it's a testament to the game design. The game is designed wonderfully. The world is beautiful, and there's always so many different things to do, so many puzzles to tackle, and you know, I could always be doing more shrines, or I could always be doing this or that, or talking to a side character, or going on a side quest, or whatever. And yeah, maybe the story struggles a little bit comparatively to other Zelda games. Maybe the character development isn't there, but I think the fun factor of Breath of the Wild cannot be understated, and there's a reason it sold 30 plus million copies. It's one of the best games I think Nintendo has ever created, and if Nintendo were to put anything in this open world format, I'm so glad it's Zelda. With the lore, with the world Zelda's built for itself, and well before Breath of the Wild, pulling all of those resources together and throwing them into this game is amazing. And likewise, I really like Tears of the Kingdom. I think it's amazing. I guess Breath of the Wild just might be my favorite Zelda game because it was the first one that I felt that I could really get lost in and have fun no matter what. I enjoyed just exploring the world, and for me, and the type of player of games that I am, that doesn't often happen. So, I absolutely adore Breath of the Wild. Thank you, Nintendo members, for having me on. I appreciate you.
Always a pleasure, Josie. And it's really interesting because suddenly now Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are suddenly bad games. The crazy thing is that those who are making claims like this have also put around 200 or more hours into this game. Debates aside though, my next guest spends most of her time working towards the rank of Geek Master. Personally, I think she's achieved it already, but for the sake of this video, I will continue to refer to her, as always, the Geek Apprentice. Geek, the stage is yours.
Hey y'all, I'm the Geek Apprentice, and thank you so much to Nintendo Memories for inviting me to be a part of this collab video. As a Zelda tuber myself, I enjoy pretty much any excuse to talk about this beloved series. So, which Zelda game is my favorite? Well, my answer will almost always pretty much be Ocarina of Time. And I need to also point out, explicitly not the 3DS version. The 3DS remake, I'm sorry, of that game as well as Majora's Mask, they're both just abominations, and I cannot stand them. But moving on. Ocarina of Time released when I was only 3 years old, but I was also heavily exposed to it at 3 years old thanks to my 2 older brothers. In fact, the reason I play games is because of them. We all know the long-standing joke about how it was totally not rated E for everyone. But despite the fact that the game was quite scary in some areas, I grew to love it and still love it to this day. Ocarina of Time is a part of a few games from that era that I just played or would watch be played over and over again, that it's just synonymous with my childhood. Some of those other games being ones like Banjo-Kazooie and Mario Party. Sure, I obviously was not playing it a ton myself. I would be allowed to ride Epona at times, and I was too terrified to defeat enemies. But slowly over the years, I would play it more and more on my own, and I just loved it. The music is beyond phenomenal. The story is actually pretty good. The graphics, all things considered, really not bad, and of course they're dated, but reasonably dated. They don't look horrible to look at, you know? And while I obviously didn't understand this at the time, looking back, this was such a big deal for the series, the first 3D Zelda game, much like Mario 64 was for the Mario series. But I would argue, although this could just be because I'm not a huge Mario fan, that The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time was a way better and stronger transition to 3D than Mario 64 was for the Mario series. But that's just my opinion. Everything about this game is just so intense and so well thought out. And one thing I did not appreciate until I actually started playing it again on the Nintendo Switch Online was how well adapted to the N64 controller it was. Trying to play this game on Joy-Cons was quite difficult, and thus I grew in great appreciation for the N64 controller, as weird as it was, and in great appreciation for the creators who really catered to that really weird controller. So you've got the gameplay, Z-targeting being a huge deal, the story, the music, and frankly nostalgia. Some people get really irate when someone has nostalgia as a part of a reason they like a game, but that just seems so silly to me. What on earth is wrong with having nostalgia for a game and letting that nostalgia influence whether or not a game is a favorite of yours? Picking something as your favorite is clearly subjective and opinionated, so the criteria is going to be as such as well. So yes, Ocarina of Time is my favorite Zelda game, probably always will be my favorite Zelda game, and I recognize a lot of nostalgia is involved with that, but I'll never apologize for it because it's silly to apologize for something like that. And also, it is just a great game overall.
Such an amazing pick. Ocarina of Time was the reason I got into video games, period. It was the very first video game I ever played. Such fond Nintendo memories with my dad. But next up, Dman has a really amazing pick that if you are a huge fan of Breath of the Wild, you probably love this. So Dman, the stage is yours, my friend.
So my favorite Zelda game of all time, it's silly to choose this, but it's Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and the reason why is because I put the most hours of any Zelda game ever into this game. I put like 250 hours into it or something crazy like that, and I just kept playing and playing and playing. There's so much to do in it. Even just in one playthrough, there's even more than Breath of the Wild. The game is massive. It's got 3 open worlds. It's absolutely crazy. And I really think that you can have fun with it. I mean, some people may have complained about it despite it being very similar to Breath of the Wild. But the thing is there's just so much to do. And I think that's cool. I love a game that you can just go at your own pace, explore where you want, do what you want. And I think they built upon Breath of the Wild with Tears of the Kingdom. And I think that that just was great. And that's something that I really like. I don't know how they're going to top this one when it comes to a 3D Zelda title. I do have some ideas in my head of things they can do. But personally, that's my favorite one because the amount of hours I've put into it, the amount of content it has, the amount of things to do in it, above Breath of the Wild with an extra open world, two extras technically. So it gives you a lot of different things to do, and that is something that I think is amazing.
Tears of the Kingdom was definitely an amazing follow-up to Breath of the Wild, and man, the reason why I love that game so much, Ganondorf. It's been 17 years since he was the main villain of a Zelda game. The fact that they brought him back and did his return justice, in my humble opinion, I think is worth noting, and I think it deserves so much praise for that. Definitely a great pick. As far as my favorite Zelda game, my favorite one would have to be, besides Tears of the Kingdom, Wind Waker HD. I think it is one of the best out there. The vibrant colors, the sailing, the pirates, the Triforce, and Link's durability in this game is unmatched. I'm serious. You do anything to him and he's indestructible. No wonder he was able to pull that Master Sword. He went through so much trouble, more trouble perhaps than any other hero in the series. Wind Waker also holds a huge place in my heart because this was the first Zelda game I was able to beat by myself on my own without any help from my dad, and so I felt super accomplished. One of the things that has become super apparent for me as I have been replaying it again is the fact that the pacing is super well done. Like, there's only 5 dungeons, and they're not relatively hard dungeons. I think they're the easiest of all the 3D Zelda dungeons ever made, in my humble opinion. So I think if you're going to have somebody be introduced to the traditional 3D formula, I think Wind Waker is a great place to start, which is why, Nintendo, bring them to Switch, please. They still won't do it. Now, as I said at the very beginning of this video, this series has been going on for almost 40 years now. And with that, there are those games that are definitely going to be amazing and they're just going to grab you from the get-go, like with the ones we've just talked about. But there's always going to be that one game or games that just does not grab you at all. It makes you just not want to play, or even worse, you play it and you just don't finish it. Geek, take it away.
Now, as far as which Zelda is my least favorite, this might be controversial simply because I haven't played it myself. However, it is very easily Triforce Heroes. First of all, I'm not a fan of multiplayer Zelda, although I haven't actually played it. I just don't like the idea of it, so I can understand someone trying to spear me for that. But that's not even the main reason why I don't like Triforce Heroes. If it were, then Four Swords and Four Swords Adventures should be up there too. No, it's because of the story. The story is stupid. I'm just gonna say it. The story is stupid. Who thought that was a good idea? The whole fashion thing, I don't even want to give more time to it. I hate the fact that it's even in the timeline, that it's considered canon. Blech. I know there are worse quote-unquote Zelda game like the CDI games. We don't even consider those canon, but yeah, without a doubt, Triforce Heroes, least favorite Zelda game. Haven't even played it. It's disgusting.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's still bad. I seriously would have wanted to be in the room when Nintendo was talking about making this game. It just really doesn't make any sense, and to make it worse, they dropped this at the worst possible point ever. I mean, Breath of the Wild, known as Zelda Wii U at that point, had just been delayed to 2016. How do they repay us for that? Just this game. Anyway, but don't take my word for it. Don't take Geek's word for it. Here's another opinion.
For every Link's Awakening, there is a Triforce Heroes. While choosing a favorite has always been a difficult task, choosing a least favorite is easy. It's this game. There are quite a few polarizing games in the franchise, but Triforce Heroes holds the honor of being the only Zelda game that I could not even bring myself to finish. People hate on Zelda 2, but I can play that game from start to finish every once in a while, and will even find myself having fun while doing it. But I get so disinterested playing Triforce Heroes that I just end up putting it down completely. Heck, half of the time I forget this game even exists. Granted, part of this may be on me. I haven't really had the opportunity to properly experience this game in a multiplayer setting, instead attempting to play it solo. Since it does technically allow for single player, it just feels so cumbersome to take on this game alone. I am and always have been partial to single player adventures. I like to be able to hop on and play a game on my own terms when I find the time to do so, but Triforce Heroes kind of punishes you for approaching it that way. Yes, playing a multiplayer game alone is not going to be as fun. That's only natural, but it should at least be a little bit fun, right? I mean, Four Swords Adventures pulled it off.
Also, Hytopia? Really? This is not a me game or a Disney game. This is a Zelda game. Hytopia just doesn't cut it. Sorry. Dman has a great pick for a least favorite, and it makes sense. Just hear him out. It makes sense. It's okay. Dman, take it away.
Now, people are going to hate me for this one. I mean, whatever. You might say Gen Z. I'm technically not Gen Z, but I'm like a few days away from it, so whatever. My least favorite Zelda game is The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. I might not be the only one in this video that says that, but my reasons aren't really because it's old or anything. My reasons are just I never could get very far. I was always lost, like, a lot. I mean, technically, it hasn't aged that well, in my opinion, either, really, I guess. And I feel like it really does need a remake and would improve with a remake for me. But I always got lost 24/7 in it, and the controls were kind of funky for me. Even on the 3DS version, I just never could get very far. I preferred Majora's Mask. Maybe I'm in the minority here, but Ocarina of Time is my least favorite Legend of Zelda game for my own personal reasons. And I feel like they really should remake this game. I really do, because I know it's a really good game for a lot of people, a legendary game for a lot of people. Some people, it's their favorite video game ever made.
And also totally understandable, because if you go play Tears of the Kingdom and then you come back to this game, you're definitely going to feel the difference big time, especially if you're a brand new Zelda fan. But now it's time to move on to probably my favorite category in this video, because yes, it's easy to pick a favorite, it's easy to pick a least favorite, but in terms of games that are underrated, it's hard to kind of find those games, because why? They are underrated. They're overlooked. Whenever you think about the Zelda series, you don't really think of these games. So I'm going to begin this section with a game that I think is very underrated, and one that I very much enjoy playing, even though the rest of the Zelda fandom probably does not. Yes, I know you all are shaking in your boots right now, because this game is one of the hardest in the series, and it's the only one that features side-scrolling gameplay, leveling up, and there is no map. But I love the music and the boss fights, and yes, once I got used to the gameplay of Link, I enjoyed exploring the world through a side-scrolling perspective. What holds this game back is its insanely high difficulty, especially in the second half of the game. What needs to happen is Nintendo needs to remake this game and downscale the difficulty by like a lot. And I truly do believe that if this game got a fresh coat of paint like Link's Awakening did, and the difficulty was downscaled like a ton, then I think this game would be received a whole lot better today. And of course, once you beat the game, you can unlock a master mode or whatever, and you can play with the crazy amount of difficulty that the original game had. But enough babbling from me, time for me to turn it back over to Capt Burgerson. Capt, take it away.
Four Swords Adventures might just be the most underrated game in the series. Now, I am not going to tout this as being my favorite game, or call it a masterpiece, but hear me out. When we talk about underrated Zelda games, a lot of great entries tend to come up in that conversation. You will hear a lot of diehards defend Twilight Princess and call it underrated, but I disagree with that. Twilight Princess is not underrated. I don't mean to say that it doesn't deserve praise, it does. I'm just saying it's not underrated because it already does receive that praise. It is always in people's lists of top 5 Zelda games. It's the 3rd best selling entry in the series with almost unanimously positive review scores. It is well loved, as it deserves to be. By the same token, I rarely hear anybody even talk about Four Swords Adventures at all. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's a game that will blow your mind or that it is an essential entry, but I will take the stance that it is a good game. Not a masterpiece, but a good, fun game. An overlooked one at that. Unlike other multiplayer Zelda titles, Four Swords Adventures manages to be a fun solo experience, giving you control over all 4 links, with the ability to arrange into a set of predetermined formations. Or you can take control of each link independently and swap between them. And if you actually do manage to get friends together, the experience is even more fun. That said, if you were to actually try to play this multiplayer these days, it is a far more complicated experience to do so. And I really do wish they would remake or re-release this game just to make that multiplayer experience easier to do. However, if you do manage to get your hands on a GameCube copy of this game, even playing solo, you're in for a good time. Not so good of a time that it'll break your top 5 list of Zelda games, but still a good time nonetheless.
Please make a sequel, please make a sequel, please make a sequel. Just keep the Fashion Princess out of it.
I don't know why they have not brought Wind Waker back for the Switch yet. I'm still confused. I don't understand why this game hasn't been ported yet from the Wii U. Why was it on the Wii U and not on the Switch? I don't get it. I don't understand it. The cartoon style is awesome. It just worked back on the GameCube. It just completely worked. It was the first Zelda game I ever played in my entire life. Why do I think it's underrated? Because there's so many people who still haven't played it because it's not on the Switch. It's on the GameCube and then the Wii U, and a lot of people didn't have a Wii U, let's be honest. The art style of Wind Waker, I think it just looks really cool. The fact that you get in a talking boat and you just set sail and you go from place to place all over the ocean, I think it's awesome. And I think that the next 3D Zelda title could realistically take ideas from Wind Waker that Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom didn't have. With a sailboat, being able to sail from location to location, I really think that's something that was probably missing from those games that I think would be really cool, to be able to set sail and explore. You know, maybe even have your own crew, maybe even be able to customize your boat, like you name it. I think Wind Waker is underrated because it's a little bit older now. It's about 20-ish, a little over 20 years old now. And I just like the fact that it's the only 3D Zelda game that we have that cartoony type style that I know of that's 3D and not top-down or 2D. And the story aspects, the gameplay, it's all there. It's all there. It really is. And the ending was pretty well done. The soundtrack also, by the way, like it's wonderful. It's like you're about to go on this little fun time of an adventure. So that's my most underrated Zelda game.
That was a fantastic pick. And speaking of fantastic picks, I think Geek hit a gold mine with this one. Geek, take it away.
Now, as for a game in the series that I feel is underrated, this one is a little bit tricky. In part because, again, I have not played every single Zelda game, and frankly, the games I have played are all pretty well loved, I would say. But also because this depends on the crowd you're with, I suppose. I guess if I have to choose, I would actually go with Spirit Tracks. I know that probably sounds like the hipster choice, but for me, the reason I choose this is because what I have seen of the game looks truly fun, really utilizes the mechanics of the DS quite well, and frankly, the music is killer. This might seem like weird reasoning simply because I have not played both Spirit Tracks and Phantom Hourglass, but in everything I've seen of both games, it seems pretty unanimous that Spirit Tracks has the better gameplay, and yet both of them get thrown under the bus a lot. So, I guess simply because of how good the music is, I'm a very big music person, I'm gonna say Spirit Tracks is one of the most underrated games. And before anyone asks, yes, if I had the ability to play it, especially stream it, I totally would. The only thing I'd be nervous about is the touchscreen because that requires that you're right-handed and I'm left-handed, which was a whole issue with Skyward Sword in the first place. But that is neither here nor there at the moment because I can't play it. Like I said in the beginning, I could talk about Zelda pretty much all day, every day. So I thank you again, Nintendo Memories, for asking me to come on and share some of my thoughts about the Zelda series. And I look forward to more collaborations in the future. The Zelda community is pretty fantastic, if I do say so myself.
All of these picks have been amazing. Favorite Zelda game, least favorite Zelda game, and most underrated. Geek, Josie, Dman, and Capt Burgerson, thank you all so much for being willing to be a part of this. I thought it was a lot of fun to be able to look at the highs, the lows, and yes, the underrated of the Zelda series throughout its nearly 40-year history, and I hope you guys enjoyed yourselves too. And to everyone who watched this video, be sure to leave a like and consider subscribing if you're new to the channel. And while you're busy subscribing, go into the description below, because you will find links to their channels below, and you'll be able to tell them that Nintendo Memories sent you their way, and you will help them out, and you will enjoy wonderful Legend of Zelda content, and you will just have an amazing time. Tell them Nintendo Memories sent you their way. But anyways, that's going to do it for this video. Be sure to leave a like and consider subscribing. Thank you all so much for watching this video. And until the next video or next live stream, take care, everyone.